Hi everyone, this is Kathy from the Ridgefield Library again, here to show you another fun and easy craft that you can make at home. This week we're going to be making custom candle holders using an item you probably already have in the fridge. This is a really simple project, so let's get started. To make this candle holder, you're only going to need 3 things. The first thing you're going to need is a glass jar. I had a jar of jelly that I had just finished, so all I did was cleaned out the jar, carefully peeled off the label, and threw away the lid. The next thing you're going to need is some string. For my example, I used brown twine. However, for this demonstration, I'm going to use some plain white string. The last thing you're going to need is a pair of scissors. The first step to making this candle holder is to cut a piece of string long enough to wrap around the top of your jar. You also want to make sure you give yourself a couple of extra inches so that you'll be able to tie it easily. So I'm just going to use my jar to determine how long I need my string to be. And then I'm going to cut my string, but I'm not going to tie it quite yet. Now that I have the string cut out to go around the top of my jar, it's time to cut the rest. For my example, I used 8 pieces of string that I spaced about 1 inch apart. Now, depending on the size of your jar, you may need to adjust that number a bit. To know how long I needed my strings to be, all I did was measure about 4 times the height of my jar. Since my jar is about 5 inches tall, I'm going to cut 20 inches of string. So I'm not going to use a ruler, I'm just going to roughly estimate it, but you can feel free to use one. So I'm just going to cut 8 pieces of string that's about 20 inches long each. Now that I've cut all 8 pieces of string, it's time to start putting my project together. I'm going to take one of my 20-inch pieces of string and fold it in half. Then I'm going to take the string that I cut for the top of my jar and place it in front of that string. It's going to create a little loop at the top. I'm going to take the ends of my folded string and feed it through that loop. When I pull, it's going to create a little knot. However, I don't want to pull it too tightly because I want to be able to adjust it on my string if I need to. I'm just going to repeat this process for the other 7 strings, spacing them about 1 inch apart. Now that all 8 pieces of string have been added, it's time to tie it around the top of my jar. I'm going to secure it with a double knot, and then I'm going to adjust my strings so that they're 1 inch apart. Now that all my string has been secured into place, I'm going to take the right side of one of my strings and the left side of a different piece of string and tie them together so that they form a little triangle that comes about 1/2 inch down the side of my jar. Once my triangle is at the size I want, I'm going to secure it with a double knot. And this is what it will look like. I'm going to turn my jar and repeat this same process, taking the right side of one string and the left side of a different string and forming the little triangle and then securing it with a double knot. So I'm just going to keep repeating this until I get all the way around my jar. Now that I've made it completely around my jar, I'm done with the first layer. Don't worry if your string bunches up a little bit, that's completely normal. So now I'm going to work on my next layer. I'm going to repeat the process of grabbing the right side of one string and the left side of the string next to it and tying them together. Except now instead of a triangle, I'm going to be making a diamond shape that's about 1 inch tall. Once that diamond shape is at the right height, you can secure it in place with a double knot. And it should look a little something like this. I'm going to repeat this process going all the way around my jar again. Now that I've completely made it around my jar the second time, my second layer is complete. So I'm just going to keep repeating the same steps over and over again until I reach the bottom of my jar. Now for my example, using the 5-inch jar, which is the same size I'm using right now, I've made about 9 different layers. Like I said, if you're using a jar that's a different size, you may need to adjust that number a bit. If the strings seem to be bunching up as you're progressing through your layers, you don't need to worry about that too much. Just make sure that you're pulling tightly on the 2 strings that you are working with. That way you're making sure your diamond is the right size. Now that all my layers have been created, I'm going to take my jar and I'm going to flip it upside down. Then I'm going to take a new piece of string that I cut and tied into a little circle and place it on top of my jar. Now the last step will be to tie all of my strings onto this circle. Now at first this is going to be really easy, but as you're working your way around the jar, you're going to have to make sure you're pulling your string really tight. Once I've finished tying all of my strings to the circle, I went ahead and cut off all the excess string. Now that we're done, all you have to do is add a candle, light it, and enjoy. If you've liked this craft and want to check out some of the other ones I've done, go to the Ridgefield Library's YouTube channel. I hope you all enjoy your candle holder, and I can't wait to make another project with you.